Good morning, Algebra 1. Today we're going to talk about solving by graphing. I usually don't write any notes for this lesson because it's all using your graphing calculator. But I thought I might just in case you needed to go back and look at something. Okay, so vocabulary. Roots, x-intercepts, zero, solutions. We talked about these in chapter 3, and we said they all are synonyms. They are all looking to this word x-intercepts, and they'll call them roots, okay? They'll call them roots. Now, your key concept says that because we're looking for x-intercepts, there are three possibilities. Either it's going to have two roots where it crosses twice, and it doesn't matter. It could go like this. It'll still have two roots, okay? It might sit right on the x-axis where it has just one root, and likewise it could go the other way, or it's not going to cross the x-axis at all, okay? And again, this just means that A is positive, this means A is negative, A is positive, A is negative. But if it doesn't cross the x-axis, there are no x-intercepts. Okay, so there are no real roots. This would be a no solution. This would have one root. Okay, this would have two roots, two solutions. Okay, now in example 1, they do y equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. And when you watch it graph, you can see, oh man, it goes right through those tick marks, okay? Goes right through those tick marks, -2 and +4. Those are my roots. Those are my roots, -2, +4. Now, I do want to do second table and look at that table because you know what? There are my zeros. Right here is a 0. So when I look at my table, I'm looking for the zeros, okay? And they're at -2 and 4. The reason I point this out is because a lot of times we'll use our arrows, and we don't need to use our arrows. We can look at our table and find the zeros, okay? Now, guided practice, just so you can see that sometimes they're different. -x squared minus 3x plus 18. Let's watch this one graph. Ooh, okay. It went through -6 and +3. And again, if I do second table, I can find those zeros. All right. There's the first one, -6. And here's the other one at 3. Okay, so all we're doing is we're using our graphing calculator to find those zeros at -6 and 3. All right, guided practice 1B. X squared minus 4x plus 3. Up goes right through 1 and 3. You could see it. You could see it. But if you do second table, you can see those zeros at 1 and 3. There's a 0. There's a 0. Okay, it is that easy. Okay, you just look at the zeros. Now in example 2, they talk about a double root. You might have heard me say that in chapter 8, a double root, a double root. Now, a double root, because if you're looking at this and if you're any good at factoring, you're saying, ooh, square, that's a perfect square trinomial. That factors into x minus 3 quantity squared equals 0, okay? Those are the ones we said, oh, you can do the square root of both sides and there's one answer, okay? But when I graph it, oops, got to get the right graph. X squared. Now, see, the nice thing about your graphing calculator is you can just type over. 6, and that has to be a 9. Graph sits right on the x-axis at x equals 3. Okay, right on the x-axis. One root, because they're both the same. I can have two factors, you're right, I have two factors, but they're both the same. Let's try another one. X squared, all right, I'm going to go ahead and clear this one. X squared minus 10x plus 25. And when I graph it, there it sits, right on x equals 5. Okay? Double root because there's one answer. They're both the same. I want to look at example 3 is a little bit different. Okay? Y equals clear 2x squared minus 3x plus 5. Graph it. See, it doesn't cross the x-axis. No solution. No real roots. Okay? You learn how to deal with that in Algebra 2. That's where we use imaginary numbers. I particularly want to look at example 4. X squared plus 6x plus 6. Now, when I graph it, it's real obvious it does not go through those tick marks. Okay? So it is not going to have nice numbers. And most of the ones in your homework won't have nice numbers. If it had nice numbers, you could factor it. And I think factoring's easier than graphing. Okay, now, the thing that I like about this is now if I wanted to, I could use my calc key and I could find those exact numbers, but it's an estimate. So since it's an estimate, I can just use my arrows. I'm going to use my arrow key and move it until it's on top of my, that looks pretty good. And see if I look at the bottom, it says y is 0 and x is negative 1.13, so about negative 1.1. And I'm just going to keep going until I get to the other one. Okay, and that's about negative 4.6. Okay, when we want exact answers, we'll use the quadratic formula. But for right now, we're just kind of estimating, and that's probably very, very close. If at most it's off by a tenth. Okay, so when you check your answers, if you're off by a tenth, you're close enough. If you're off by 2/10, then you didn't get close enough. All right, let's try 4a. Y equals, I'm going to clear that one, 2x squared plus 6x minus 3. Again, when I graph it, it's there, it's in between. You can see it's in between. Okay? And I'm going to do, I don't want to use my up and down arrows because I want my y to equal 0. So I'm just going to see when I hit that arrow, it puts a cursor on there. I'm going to move that over. That's about 0.37, which is about 0.4. Okay, and then I got to move the other way to get to the other one. Okay, now that's about negative 3.3. Okay, so those are my approximate solutions, and those are pretty close. Okay, so that's why when I just never did notes for these before, because you're just looking at your calculator. Hope this helps. Bye.